are 6 questions. Sorry. These are 6 questions that I think will really help you guys to hone in on those rates that I was just talking about. And before we actually get to those questions, if y'all remember, I believe I put them in resources, but I sent you guys that spreadsheet. It was called Templates, Services, and Rates. And that's going to be really helpful to have pulled up if you're a visual learner like me. So I also want to mention that we're going to be going over an example, like a very specific example of a service that I offer. So you can see how I come up with the price after I use these 6 questions that I'm going to talk about right now. So the first question that I want you to be asking yourself, it's not for your clients to know necessarily. What the hourly rate really does is it just helps you calculate the rate for the project or the rate for whatever task that you're doing. So like I said, it's kind of only for you. And when you are moving away from an hourly rate, like I said, it's important to benchmark your stuff and be able to calculate your rate. But when you move away from the hourly rate into more project or shifting from that gig economy worker mindset where it's very like task oriented, like, okay, I'm working for my hours. Like, you know, if I put in a set amount of hours, I'll make this much money. But it's really important to start thinking about yourself as a freelancer and a business owner as someone that is worth more than just your time, your money, your experience level and your knowledge is what people are paying for. They shouldn't necessarily just be paying for your time because your time is worth, you know, you can't charge someone. I mean, well, maybe you can, but it's kind of unrealistic to charge someone $1,000 an hour for something that most people are charging $100 an hour for. So it's really important to start thinking about, again, of it as a whole, as like a project based and the value that the client is getting from the project rather than, oh, it's going to take me 10 hours. So my rate is $30 an hour. So it's $300. I think that's right. So yeah, I think that is really important to remember. And then the other thing is like, make sure that you're setting the expectation early with your clients that you don't work for an hourly rate, but that you are working for a project or a monthly rate. And we can talk about this if you guys have questions about it. So the second thing, how much do you need for taxes? This is pretty self-explanatory. I save 25% for taxes in the US, and I have been able to give myself a tax return every single year, which has been super nice. But I do just want to mention I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not a financial anybody. So please like refer to an accountant if you need help finding one. I'm absolutely like happy to help. But this is just a reminder to save for taxes because I think a lot of people don't factor this into their rates, and it's incredibly important for you to do that because otherwise you are not paying taxes or you're pulling this money from elsewhere, and I'm not sure where you're going to pull it from if you're not charging for it. So just an important reminder. Number 3, what are your unbillable hours? And I believe I did an Instagram live on this before when we talked about your money mindset. But your unbillable hours are basically like the time spent doing work for the client that can't necessarily be paid. Like they're not paying you for. So like things like invoicing, like your onboarding process stuff. If you're getting on a call with them to, you know, ask questions, about like, you know, to get information about their project, or you're sending emails back and forth, or you're doing research before you get on the call to make sure that you show up in the best way possible. So those are what's called unbillable hours. And I think you should still be factoring that into your rate because like I said, we are business owners and freelancers. We are not just people doing a task. Like you have to understand that as someone that runs their own business, as someone that's doing this as a self-employed person, you have to account for this kind of stuff because it's time that you're spending on your client. Now, I do want to mention that this is not something that you like put in, you don't like itemize this in your invoice. This is just what you wrap into your rate. And again, I'll explain this with an example at the end. So it'll make a lot more sense if you're confused about unbillable hours. Number 4, what's your experience level? And this is, I always have such a hard time with this because I think a lot of people, well, experience to me is really subjective. So like it's it is your skill level, but it's also like, what's the ROI that you're providing for your client? And can you actually justify the price with your years of experience, with results, with your confidence level? I think all of this has a lot to play. And I wrote a blog post about, I think it's called Freelancer Rates and How to Set Them. And I talk a lot about self-worth there. And I think that's a really important key when you're talking about experience level or skill level, because yes, it could be like your actual experience, like how many years you've had, or it could be the results that you provide your clients, like I said, or it could be, it's not necessarily like how confident you are, but it's, you'll feel better charging a higher rate if your confidence, matches your skill level. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm down to explain that a little bit more. It can get really complicated when you tie your confidence to your money. So I want to be careful to not like equate those directly, but just that your self-worth does factor into how much you're going to charge and how much you're going to feel comfortable and confident charging for your clients. One thing actually too that I wanted to mention about this is that even if you have like a million years of experience, your prices really need to be comparable to your competition. Otherwise, you're pricing yourself out of the market, and it doesn't matter how amazing you are, people just like won't be able to afford you. So make sure you're looking at kind of like average rates, or you are doing your market research and looking at all sorts of websites for people in your industry to kind of get an idea of what they're doing and what they're charging to help you kind of benchmark your own rate. Okay, what type of client are you serving? This one is pretty crucial. When I first heard this kind of stuff, I thought it was super shady. To be completely honest, I literally was like, okay, so you're going to be charging like someone that makes more money more and someone that makes less money less. And for me, that just was like, okay, why don't we just charge people the same exact amount? But it's literally because nonprofits, like if you look at the spreadsheet that I sent out, I broke it up into 3 sections of my 3 main clients, which are nonprofits at the lower end, my main clients, which are small business owners and freelancers, and then agencies as well. And just nonprofits just do not have the budget to be spending, most of the time, like $5,000 on a web page or whatever. And I'm definitely not saying discount your services just because they can't pay it, but do understand who your client is and make sure that it's reflecting that. And the last one, what are the deliverables? Sorry, this chair is so loud. I'm trying to get off my knee. So when I say deliverables, it basically means like the details of the project. What's the value you're providing, and then also like if you have to do any pre-ordering of products or like graphics or anything like that for your client, this is going to be part of the deliverables. So for instance, if you're like writing a sales sequence on an email where the ROI is like five times what you're, charging them for because it's a sales sequence, then you need to charge for that. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't think about because they're like, okay, well, it's just a regular email and it's only going to take me 3 hours or something. But that's where you come in with the more value-based pricing or like the project-based pricing rather than the hourly rate, because it's really you're providing so much value to them. It's kind of like the same thing with the sales page. A lot of people are like, oh, it only takes a couple hours to write a sales page. Like, why are these people charging thousands of dollars for someone to write and design it? It's because sales pages make people a shit ton of money, a lot of money. They are literally pages to sell people on things. So if I'm charging someone $500 because it takes me less than 5 hours, that's just the value for that is so much lower and you're undercharging at that point. So it's really important to understand what the deliverables are and the value that you're giving to your client as well.